Hi, I'm Peter Cowan, the Bee Whisperer. It's that time of year now. We're in the dead of winter and we're starting to go stir crazy. Haven't opened a beehive for months, desperate to know how the bees are faring. And if you're relatively new to this, you are not really sure of the signs to watch for to know whether your bees are doing okay or not. Do you need to intervene in any way? For example, all sorts of questions are going through your head at the moment. How can I help my bees now getting through the winter? Are they still alive? What do I do if I need to feed how do I know if I need to feed my bees? I see dead bees on the snow. Should I be worried? If my colony dies, is it okay to use the old combs? When do I need to order my new bees? All sorts of questions are going through your head at the moment. Absolutely natural, and even as an experienced beekeeper, you start asking yourself these questions occasionally. The key thing is, don't open up your hive too early. There's a lot of good signs there which will tell you how your bees are faring right now. And a lot of it depends on the history. How well did you treat your hive for mites during the summer and fall? And also, do you know your hives went into the winter with plenty of food? Now, if you felt that your hives were pretty well prepared for the winter, most of the colonies would probably be alive right now. The sort of things that we're watching for is dead bees in the snow. As soon as you see dead bees have been coming and dying at the entrance of the hive, or dying in the snow in front of the hive, if you're in an area which is getting snow, then you know you've got a live colony. The bees, in order for the bees to leave, to get the hive, literally just to get to the couple of inches from where the cluster would be to the entrance of the hive, there needs to be a warm cluster in there. The colony needs to be warm in order for that bee to make it to the entrance simply to die. This means that you've got a substantial cluster in there keeping everything warm. So this is good news. Remember, your colony went into the winter with 20,000-30,000 bees, and that means nearly 100 bees a day are going to die through the winter time. A lot of them will just drop to the bottom of the hive because it's too cold for them to actually leave the hive. But on warmer days, they will actually be able to get to the bottom of the hive, get out the entrance or go out the top entrance, and they may attempt to fly and then die fall into the snow and die. And you might fish them out and you might warm them up and they're still alive. The bees aren't going to die instantly. But this is the same thing that would happen during the summer. The bees that are nearing the end of their lives, they can sense they're about to die. They attempt to leave the hive so that their dead body doesn't block up the bottom and make the hive unsanitary. So they always attempt to leave the hive if they have the energy and the ability to do so. If it's too cold, they simply drop to the bottom of the hive and die. Now, so if we're seeing any dead bees on the snow, that's a great sign. And on warm days, you may see hundreds of dead bees on the snow, as number one, bees are able to leave the hive to die themselves, but also their sisters are carting out the bees that didn't make it and dropping them in the snow. And so there'll be a sudden increase in numbers of dead bees in the snow. And this shows that you've got a good, strong cleaning force in the hive as well. So if your cluster is alive or not, you're not sure. If there are no dead bees on the snow, well, this could be that the weather's been literally too cold for them to leave the hive and they're just dropping to the bottom of the hive. Or it could be the cluster is too small and they're sort of just hanging on, and we need warmer days still for the bees to be able to fly. And finally, it could just be that the colony has died. If you're getting warm days in the high 40s and you're still not seeing dead bees outside the hive, the probability that the hive has survived the winter is getting pretty remote. And so it's probably time to order your new bees for the spring. There are other things that you can do to check or to see if your hives need any help, and that is, are they running out of food? What you can do is heft the hive. Now, it could be that the colony is frozen to the table that it's on, and it might be, or the stand that it's on, and it may be impractical to try and lift the hive. But if you can, try to. take the front entrance or the back and try and tip the hive an inch. That's all you need to do to get a feel for the weight of the hive. If it still feels good and heavy, you have plenty of food in the hive for now. And that's the only question you need to ask yourself. You're not worried about yet whether they're going to run out of food in March. You want to just make sure, are they going to run out of food in January? It is very unlikely, if your hive went into the winter with a reasonable amount of food, that they're going to be anywhere near running out of food in January. However, if you do feel the hive is light, and then you need to prepare to feed them. Preparing to feed them means go back, get your winter patties ready. Winter patties are just sugar with a few vitamins added. There's very little protein in there. We're not talking about pollen patties for now. You could also make sugar bricks. I did a video on that earlier in the last winter, and I may yet do another one this spring or later this winter. And alternatively, you could feed them, put a sheet of newspaper and pour sugar in the upper space that you've provided for them. So don't open your hive just to check to see whether they're alive before you feed them. You open the hive at the time that you're ready to feed them, so you only have to do it once, not twice. Remember, opening the hive releases a lot of heat, and it takes the bees a lot of energy and a lot of stress to reheat a chilled hive. And you don't want to put them through any more stress than they're going through. You're already worried about them. So just open the hive simply to feed. Your process of feeding by pushing the food into the just across the upper frames, whether there's bees there or not. The important thing is to get that food in there, and the next time you go in 2 weeks' time, you'll then want to check to see if bees are up there eating it. If you've still got food there, you don't need to feed anymore. You still may not know whether the bees are alive or not, but you know they're not going to run out of food. But by feeding them the dry food in there, that should literally take 10 seconds or more, no more. You don't want to have that hive open for any longer than you need to. So now you've addressed either if the bees are flying, that's great, your hive is alive. If they're in any way light, you can feed them. And if you are needing to feed them, check them again in 2 weeks, regardless of the weather, to see what proportion of that food you've put in has been eaten. And again, be prepared to feed them right there and then. Don't open them twice, where once will do. Those are really the things that you can do right now. Otherwise, it's a matter of preparing your equipment, read up, take a beekeeping class, maybe join Beekeeping 24/7 for further information. But this time of year, there's very little we can do. All our preparation took place from the late summer into early fall. Right now, we just have to keep our fingers crossed. We have to rely on what we did earlier on, and there's only that thing that we can do is topping up food just in case they are getting light. But if they were prepared pretty well in the fall, chances of them running low on food in January is pretty slim. They must have been very light going into the winter if they're running low in January. So hopefully you're not going to do anything just yet. Maybe by February, it'll be a different story. By February, with the days having increased somewhat, if we start getting warm spells in the weather, now they may be starting to rear brood. I've often seen brood having started to be reared in my hives here in January. They may only be producing very small, say softball size groups of brood in the hive, but I've heard, given this mild winter we've had, I've heard Bob Binney in Georgia, for example, is finding his bees brooding up particularly early this year. We here in Maine, northeastern United States, it's been a very mild winter. We've had very few really cold days and nights. We're just getting into some cold nights now. We had our first day of 1 degree Fahrenheit, about minus 20 centigrade. And we can see in the forecast a few more coming. But by February, it's already starting to warm up. And brood rearing should begin. And from that point on, things start to accelerate. They start to eat more food. So much more likely that if we're going to get low on food, it's going to start happening February, March time. We'll continue to feed dry food if we need to, but if we prepared our hives as we tried to do in the fall, we shouldn't need to feed it all. Anyway, that's what we can do for now. I'll be doing a few more videos and addressing some of those concerns that we're having at this time of year. I'm Peter Cowan, the Bee Whisperer. See you next time.